Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into the Malicious Compliance archives. Before we start, did you know that KCC now has a Shorts channel? Check out KCC Shorts listed at the top of the description down below for under 1 minute Ask Reddit questions and answers and short stories. Our first story today comes to us from Why the F I Get Suspend. You can't continue working from home because you go idle and chat too often. Let's jump right in. As part of the plan to return to office post-COVID, my company has done a lot of redesignating of who can permanently work from home, who can hybrid, etc. I really wanted to work from home full-time. I hate the office with a burning passion. It's distracting, it's a long commute, there's no benefit to being there, so on and so forth. I'd just rather be at home. Well, when we thought May was going to be go back to the office time, they started giving out the new designations. I got designated as an in-office full-time. It made no sense to me. I work on a team of 8 people, and each of us is in a different office somewhere in the country. I've literally never been to an in-person meeting or needed to do in-person work in 3 years at this company. Every single other person on my team got designated to work from home. So I brought it up with my boss and asked to work from home. When I started at this company and lived elsewhere, I got to work from home for 4 months before I moved, and the past 14 months during COVID had been at home. So 18 of 36 months at the company had been work from home. What I was told is that I go idle too often in the chat to trust to work from home. Basically, we have a company-wide IM system that shows you as available, idle, or in a meeting. If you don't touch your keyboard for 5 minutes, you show as idle. So they've decided to use this as a measure for who is working and who isn't. The thing is, like many people in many types of jobs, I don't have crap to do for a full 8 hours every single day. The amount of work I have to do on a typical day takes 3 to 5 hours of actual attention. There simply isn't something to do all the time. My performance numbers actually went up working from home. By all objective KPI numbers, I'm a better worker at home. In fact, in the KPIs that I don't flat out lead the team in, I come in second. There isn't work to do that I'm neglecting or procrastinating. When something comes up, I simply do it until it's done, or until I can't do anymore due to waiting on someone else, then stop. And I've done that method long enough that my work queue stays empty, because I work to get my queue down to the point where when something comes up, I can immediately address it and be done with it. But because I have other ways to spend my time in downtime, instead of messing around online at my cube, pretending to be working, meaning I show idle more often, I'm a worse worker apparently. I was told if it weren't for that, they would let me work at home. So I wrote a 6-line PowerShell script that virtually inputs the period key every 4 minutes that starts running every day at 8 AM and stops at 5 PM. So now I literally never go idle. I do the same amount of work and still read books, watch TV, and play video games on the side. But I have a shiny green check next to my name all day. Because of COVID complications, they eventually said no going back until after Labor Day. I just had a meeting with my boss, and he said over this time, they've noticed I go idle a lot less than I used to, so they're changing my designation to work from home, all because of a little icon in some software. This concludes my TED Talk on why low to middle level managers are the dumbest, most useless do-nothing positions in all of corporate America. OP added a couple of edits in the end, and they're kind of funny, so I'm going to add them in here. The first one says, I do not need to be told to buy a mouse jiggler for the 30th time. I'm aware of what they are. This costs me no money and achieves the same thing. Why would I pay to achieve an effect I've already achieved for free? Edit number 2 says, a lot of people are understandably asking for the script. Well, here it is. That's the backbone of the whole thing. There's different ways to implement it with for loops or scheduled tasks or whatever. That part's up to you. But that's all the PowerShell needs at its core to accomplish this. A lot of people have pointed out that sending insert or F13 instead of period would be better, so change that up if you want. To all the people commenting that I'm a crappy employee and obviously trying to insult me over it, I wish I could make you feel just how little I care. To all the people implying a workday isn't valid, if you aren't at 100% capacity from 8 to 5, keep it up. You truly are an ideal employee. To them, enjoy the taste of leather, bootlickers. Edit number 3 says, Some of y'all would be pissed as F if I explained the concept of firefighters to you. Okay, gotta mention that this is just a whole bunch of corporate stupidity. Measuring the idle time of these people when they're obviously hitting all their KPIs and doing a darn good job of it too is just stupid. A good manager is one that sits back and says, as long as you're getting your work done on time and accurately, I really don't care how you get it done. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Rustic Whiskey. Get rid of my vacation, have fun replacing me. Let's jump right in. I originally posted this as a comment on another thread, but realized it needed its own limelight. I worked at a company that gave out exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25 plus years received 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time. This was a family-owned company, but rather large. We ran 3 shifts, totaling 250 plus people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20, now he was 63, and gave absolutely zero crap. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product, him and one other higher up in the office. One day, the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks and do completely away with personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. They then go into the offices and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup. But they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved, you can just call in and take it. Jimmy is pissed, and they know it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now, so they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in the first training day for the new hire and lets us know he's going to use all of his PTO at once and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had a backstock of parts he had made, so it wasn't too unnerving, but for 10 weeks, Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks, it's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days, they try calling him and even go to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Finally, on day 3, he calls and resigns, and they lose their crap. The parts he makes are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come in and teach some new hires how to make them. And when he found out what all they had done, it pissed him off. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach them how to produce the parts, and they had to pony up or close down. Moral of the story, don't F with people's vacation time. OP for this one also added some edits on the bottom. The first one says, Jimmy made an electronic control module that was sealed and stayed fixed in a poured unit made of 2-part epoxy. Edit number 2 says, Jimmy didn't exactly miss out on a 7-figure contract and had 0 chances to take one. He left, said F him, and moved on. When they contacted the previous owner and explained the situation, it was basically a, you need my help, it'll cost $1 million type of conversation. Final update, thank you everyone for all the attention this received. I had no idea this would blow up like this. I have immediate family working with the company still, so if I hear any more rumblings, I'll fill you all in. Also, I worked here for 4 years. I have a few other Jimmy stories I may post at another time on the appropriate Reddit. Thank you all again. This is just generally how it goes when a company gets sold. The people selling it say, oh, nothing's going to change because they don't want all of the employees to jump ship. But they really have no control over what happens as soon as their hands are off of the business. So things get changed and employees get screwed. But sometimes, some employees will turn around and screw the new company owners back. A part of me hopes that the original owners would give a little bit of a payout to Jimmy for all the hard work, but that probably didn't happen. Our next story today comes to us from Princess G66. I don't care if he is dead, put him on the phone. Let's jump right in. I was sent here on a recommendation from another sub with a story you guys might like. My father died on Father's Day 2012. He was divorced and living alone, and I am an only child, so that means I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us trying to get his utilities canceled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel. The lady I spoke with on the phone said to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month, I got another bill. I called again and a new woman answered. She said that because I wasn't on the account, that she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder was dead, but she wouldn't budge. I had to make an appointment with the supervisor so she could speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk and said, when she talked to him, to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out of her chair, and called the cops. When they showed up, she claimed that I had assaulted her. And yes, my dad's remains were still sitting in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in, and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said that I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there was no laws that were broken. I said that I agreed with them that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak with him in person. By then, they were done talking between themselves. The supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of. But the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address and my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally helped me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all of the fees that come with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me that she was again so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said that the employee was terminated, and again, she is so very sorry. Now, if OP had already sent in this certified death certificate, don't you think it should have been on file somewhere that this employee would have seen it? I mean, I understand only being able to speak to the account holder because that is a rule in most call centers for most companies. But when OP mentioned that there was a death certificate on file, that should have been the end of that. In fact, most larger companies have a department or at least a person that deals with those types of accounts alone. Well, I feel that OP was justified bringing the ashes in and plopping them down on the desk, but I'd love to know what you all think. Please comment down below. Our final story today comes to us from Theory of Relative T. My appointment was canceled for being 5 minutes late. I guess I have to reschedule. Let's jump right in. This happened about 4 years ago when I got a summer job at my university. The job was working for professors that I had worked with before, and they asked me last minute to teach a summer workshop to 9th and 10th graders. So with less than 2 weeks before the camp starts, I have a bunch of paperwork to do first, including clearances that say I can work with kids. One of these is an official FBI check for which they need my fingerprints. Well, I needed to do the physical fingerprinting right away in order to get the results in time. Luckily, I was able to book a fingerprinting appointment for that Friday, booked 24 hours in advance as required, which would be just barely enough time to get the result. That Friday, I catch the subway to campus, and it's atrociously slow. I'll admit, I should have planned for this. The subway here is always behind. Anyway, I end up slightly late getting to campus, so I literally run to the police station and enter the front room at exactly 5 minutes after my appointment time. I know this because, as I stepped through the door, I felt my phone buzz with what turned out to be a "Your appointment has been canceled" email. I speak to the security cop behind the bulletproof glass inside, and I learn the appointment was canceled after he checks my confirmation number. Apparently, they are automatically canceled if you're not checked in within 5 minutes. Obviously, this is outrageous, but I'm usually a patient guy. I ask if I can book a new appointment. That's no good since it would have to be Monday or later. So I grab a coffee from across the street and return to sit inside the police station to try and solve this with some Googling while I slip into a more and more frantic state of frustration. I can't find anywhere in the city that can fingerprint me before Monday, but here's what really pushed me over the edge. While I'm sitting there, at this point 30 minutes past my appointment time, someone else comes in for fingerprints. She shows up 5 minutes early, They take her in immediately, and she's out before her appointment was even scheduled to begin. The entire thing took her about 2 minutes. I point out to the cop behind the glass, as politely as I can, that clearly someone could see me right now, because her appointment is already over. Why can't I have the current slot? But the cop insists that since my appointment was canceled, my registration info was no longer in the system, and I can't be seen today. That's when the idea comes to me, and I confirm with him that showing up early is not a problem, because they would have my appointment and registration info in the system. You see where I'm going with this? So I quietly sit back down and take out my phone. About 10 minutes later, I calmly approach him again and say, "Hello, I have a new appointment to be fingerprinted. I'm about 72 hours early." I have never seen such an exasperated sigh in my life, but he checked my new confirmation number and everything was in order. Within 10 minutes, I was walking back out after getting fingerprinted. I wonder if the cop behind the counter ever used this again in the future. "I'm sorry your appointment was automatically canceled. Unfortunately, since your appointment was canceled, you're no longer in the system and I cannot process you. However, if you book an appointment for any future time, you'll be back in the system. You can even come early to that appointment. Very early. Days early." Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.